Condé stared at the message on his screen for the third time. The words had not changed. They still made no sense. He was a xenobiologist, a scientist who studied alien life forms. He worked on Coalition Station Prime, a massive space station where hundreds of alien species lived and worked together. His job was simple and quiet. He studied bacteria. He wrote reports. Nobody important ever noticed him, until today, the message came from the Velith Empire. The Velith were the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had ruled for over 100,000 years. Their empire stretched across 10,000 worlds. They were ancient. They were terrifying. And they never, ever spoke to humans. Humans were new to the galaxy. Only 47 years had passed since Earth joined the Coalition. The other species barely respected them. Some called humans children. Others called them primitives. Nobody called them important. So why would the Velith Empress want to see him? "You look like you've seen a ghost," Hannah said. She was his colleague and his closest friend on the station. She worked as an engineer, fixing the countless machines that kept the station running. She was smart, funny, and always knew when something was wrong. Day turned his screen toward her. She read the message. Her eyes went wide. The throne world? Day, no human has ever been there. "Why you?" "I don't know," he said. His hands were shaking. "Maybe it's a mistake. The Velith don't make mistakes." Hannah sat down heavily. "When do you leave?" "Tomorrow." They sat in silence. Outside the window, stars stretched in every direction. Space was beautiful and cold and endless. Day had always loved it. Now it felt threatening. Captain Lee Jin arrived an hour later. He was a military man, tall and hard-faced. He had fought in the border wars against pirate fleets. He did not smile much. "You're the scientist?" Jin asked. "Yes, sir. I'm your escort. We leave at dawn. Pack light. The Velith don't like clutter." Jin looked him up and down. "You ever met a Velith before?" "Only in videos." "Then let me tell you something. They're not like other aliens. They don't think like us. They don't feel like us. Their minds are different, old, cold. If the Empress asks you a question, answer carefully." The last human who disappointed a Velith noble came back in pieces. Dave felt his stomach drop. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" "No, it's supposed to keep you alive." That night, Day could not sleep. He lay in his small quarters and stared at the ceiling. Why did the Empress want him? He was nobody special. He had published a few papers on alien immune systems. He had won an award once for his research on bacterial communication. But that was it. Nothing that would interest an Empress who ruled half the galaxy. He thought about his family back on Earth. His mother worked as a teacher in Bizan. His sister ran a small restaurant in Seoul. They would be terrified if they knew where he was going. He had not told them. What could he say? That he might die tomorrow and nobody knew why? At dawn, Jin knocked on his door. Time to go. The Velith ship waited in the docking bay. Day stopped when he saw it. It was not like human ships, which were metal and angular and clearly machines. This ship was alive. It looked like a massive insect with a gleaming shell that shifted colors in the light. It had wings folded against its sides. It breathed. He could see it breathing. Is that alive? He asked. The Velith grow their ships, Jin said. Get used to it. Everything they make is alive. The inside was worse. The walls were soft and warm. They pulsed with a slow rhythm, like a heartbeat. The air smelled sweet and strange. Day felt like he had been swallowed. The journey took 3 days. The ship moved faster than any human vessel. It traveled through jump space, folding distance like paper. Day spent most of the time trying not to think about the walls breathing around him. Jin told him what to expect. The throne world is called Shalavar. It's completely covered by the Grand Hive. Imagine a city the size of a planet, all connected, all alive. Billions of Velith live there. The Empress rules from the center in a chamber they call the Throne of Stars. What does she look like? Big, 30 feet tall, maybe more. Wings like crystal. Eyes that see everything. Jin paused. Try not to stare. They consider it rude. When they arrived, Day pressed his face to the window. The throne world filled his vision. It was covered in towering spires that gleamed like diamonds. Rivers of light flowed between the structures. The entire planet glowed. Beautiful, he whispered. Deadly, Jin corrected. They landed in a bay that could have held 1,000 ships. Velith soldiers waited for them. They were huge, each one 8 feet tall, with armor that looked grown rather than forged. They did not speak. They simply gestured for Day and Jin to follow. The walk through the hive was like walking through a dream. The corridors were vast and curved. The walls showed images of Velith history, battles won, worlds conquered. Day saw species he recognized and dozens he did not. The Velith had been everywhere. They had done everything. Finally, they reached the throne chamber. The doors were 50 feet high. They opened silently. The chamber inside was so large it had clouds near the ceiling. Thousands of Velith filled the space, all watching. At the center, on a throne carved from a meteorite, sat Empress Shiara. She was enormous. Her body was covered in armor that looked like polished black stone. Her wings stretched 20 feet on each side, shimmering with blue and green light. Her eyes were compound, made of thousands of smaller eyes, all focusing on him at once. Day forgot to breathe. Human Kongde, the Empress said. Her voice was not one voice. It was many voices speaking together, creating harmonies that hurt his ears. Approach. His legs moved on their own. He walked forward until he stood at the base of the throne. He felt like an ant standing before a mountain. Do you know why you are here? She asked. No, Your Majesty. You study life. You understand how living things work, how they communicate, how they survive. Yes, Your Majesty. Then perhaps you can help us. The Empress leaned forward. Her massive face filled his vision. Human Kongde, I have called you here because my people are dying. Not from disease. Not from war. We are dying from success. We have lived too long. We have conquered death itself. And it is destroying us. They did not understand. You've conquered death? How is that destroying you? Because, the Empress said, and her voices sounded sad, nothing ends. Nothing changes. Nothing matters anymore. We have become immortal, and it has made us hollow. She stood. Her shadow covered him completely. So I have brought you here to teach us something that only humans understand. I need you to teach us how to die. Day's heart stopped. The chamber fell silent. Every Velith eye was on him. The most powerful being in the galaxy was asking him to teach her people how to die. He had no idea what to say. Day stood frozen. The Empress's words echoed in his head. Teach us how to die? It made no sense. The Velith were immortal. They had everything. Why would they want to die? I don't understand, he said. His voice sounded small in the vast chamber. The Empress gestured with one massive hand. The Velith watching them began to leave. Within minutes, only Day, Jin, the Empress, and a few attendants remained. The chamber felt even larger when it was empty. Sit, the Empress commanded. A platform rose from the floor. Day sat. Jin stood behind him, hand near his weapon. 50,000 years ago, the Empress began, my people discovered how to transfer consciousness. We learned to take a mind from a dying body and place it into a new one. We thought we had achieved perfection. No more would the Velith fear death. Our knowledge would never be lost. Our leaders could rule forever. She moved across the chamber. Each step shook the floor slightly. At first it was glorious. Our greatest scientists lived for thousands of years. They made discoveries that changed the galaxy. Our artists created works that lasted millennia. We thought we had won, but? Day asked. But something happened, slowly. So slowly we did not notice until it was too late. The Empress stopped. Her wings dimmed. We stopped creating. We stopped dreaming. We stopped wanting anything. Why create art when you have forever to do it? Why fall in love when relationships can last 10,000 years? Why fight for a cause when you can wait and see what happens? Day began to understand. You lost urgency. We lost everything that makes life worth living. The Empress's voices were quiet now. Do you know when the last great Velith poem was written? 30,000 years ago? The last revolutionary idea? 20,000 years. We have not changed in millennia. We simply exist. An old Velith approached. She was smaller than the Empress, but still large. Her shell was marked with age. I am High Scholar Vasana, she said. For 3,000 years I have studied other species. I have watched civilizations rise and fall. And I noticed something about humanity. What? Day asked. You burn, Vasana said. You burn so bright. You live maybe 100 years, yet in that tiny span you create more than we create in millennia. You write poetry that makes us weep. You compose music that haunts us. You build monuments to your dead. You fight wars for ideas. You sacrifice yourselves for causes. Why? Because you know you will die. She showed him an image. It was a human painting, The Starry Night by Van Gogh. This human lived only 37 years. He created this masterpiece knowing he would die, knowing it might never be appreciated. That is courage. That is beauty. Day looked at the painting. He had seen it before, but never like this. Never through alien eyes. I have watched your species, the Empress said. I have read your literature. I have listened to your music. I have studied your philosophy. And I realize something. You are not strong despite your mortality. You are strong because of it. Death makes you fierce. It makes you precious to each other. It makes you create and love and fight as if every moment matters. Because it does, Day said softly. Yes, the Empress sat on her throne again. So I brought you here. I need you to teach us what we have forgotten. How to value time. How to make choices that matter. How to love something knowing it will end. How to die well so we can finally learn to live well. A door opened. A Velith male entered. He was huge even by Velith standards. His armor was decorated with military honors. His wings were bright red. Mother, he said. His voice was cold. What is this human doing in the throne chamber? Prince Relix, the Empress said. This is Condé. He is here at my request. To do what? Contaminate our culture with human weakness? To save our culture from stagnation, Relix turned to Day. My mother has developed an obsession with your species. She believes you have something we lack. I believe you are primitives playing with technology you barely understand. You have been spacefaring for less than 50 years. We have ruled the galaxy for 100,000. What could you possibly teach us? Day stood. He was terrified, but something in the prince's tone made him angry. I can teach you that ruling for 100,000 years doesn't matter if you haven't lived a single day. The chamber fell silent. Relix's eyes focused on him like weapons. Brave, the prince said. Stupid but brave. Mother, this is foolishness. Mortality is weakness. It is chaos. It is the thing we evolve beyond. If we choose to die, we will become like the lesser species. We will lose everything that makes us great. We have already lost it, the Empress said. We just have not admitted it yet. Relix left without another word. But Day saw the anger in his movements. He had made an enemy. You will have 6 months, the Empress said. Bring human advisors, scholars, artists, anyone who can help us understand. If you succeed, I will offer mortality as a choice to all Velith. If you fail, she did not finish. She did not need to. That night, Day could not sleep again. He lay in quarters that were too large and too strange. The walls glowed softly. Outside, the hive never slept. He could hear it humming, millions of lives all connected. Jin sat with him. You know this is impossible, right? Yes, and you know the prince will try to kill you. Probably, so why do it? They thought about that painting. About Van Gogh creating beauty even though he would die. about every human who had ever made something knowing it would not last. Because they asked, he said finally. Because maybe we can help. Because isn't that what humans do? We try impossible things. Sometimes we even succeed. Jin almost smiled. You're either very wise or very stupid. Both, Day said. Definitely both. The next morning, Day sent messages to Earth. He needed help. He needed people who understood mortality better than he did. He needed someone who could explain what it meant to live with death waiting at the end. 3 people answered his call. Dr. Choi. Sujin was 60 years old. She had spent her entire career studying death. How cultures mourned. How people found meaning in finite lives. She was gentle and wise. Yoon Taemin was 23. He was a poet and artist. His work was about impermanence, about beautiful things that did not last. He was young and passionate. Lieutenant Henry was 35. She had been a soldier. She had lost friends in combat. She understood sacrifice. She was strong and direct. They arrived 2 weeks later. Day met them in the landing bay. Thank you for coming, he said. Are you kidding? Taemin said, staring at the hive around them. A chance to teach aliens about death? This is the craziest, most beautiful thing I've ever heard. It might also get us killed, Nari added. That too, Taemin agreed cheerfully. Sujin just smiled. Then we had better make it count. The first session did not go well. Day and his team stood in a smaller chamber, though still large enough to hold hundreds. 50 Velith scholars had gathered to hear them. High Scholar Visana introduced the humans. They will teach us about mortality, she said. Listen with open minds. Sujin spoke first. She was calm and clear. Mortality shapes everything humans do. We know our time is limited, so we make different choices. We value moments. We cherish relationships. We create urgently. One of the Vela scholars raised a claw. But why? If something is worth doing, you have time to do it. Why rush? Because rushing makes it matter, Sujin said. If I have forever to write a poem, I might never write it. If I have only today, suddenly it becomes important. That sounds like inefficiency, another scholar said. Tae-Min stepped forward. Let me show you something. He had brought materials from Earth, sand in different colors, tools for spreading it. He began creating an image on the floor. The Velith watched, curious. It took him an hour. He made a beautiful pattern of swirling colors, a sunset over mountains. The Velith leaned closer. It was genuinely beautiful. This is impressive, Visana said. How long will it last? About 5 minutes, Taemin said. Then he picked up a broom and swept it away. The Velith made sounds of distress. Several stood. Why would you destroy it? One demanded. I didn't destroy it, Taemin said. I completed it. The destruction is part of the art. It was beautiful because it wouldn't last. If I preserved it forever, it would just become decoration. By letting it end, it stays perfect in our memory. The Velith did not understand. They could see it in their stillness. They valued preservation. They kept everything. The idea of deliberately ending something beautiful made no sense to them. Over the next weeks, the team tried different approaches. Nari told stories of soldiers who had sacrificed their lives. They gave up everything for a cause they believed in. That sacrifice had meaning because they could never take it back. But they could have helped their cause for centuries if they had lived, Avelith argued. Maybe, Nari said. But the fact that they didn't makes their choice more powerful. They knew they had one life. They chose to give it. The Velith discussed this among themselves. Some seemed interested. Others were hostile. The arguments grew louder each day. Prince Relix attended one session. He sat in the back and did not speak. But Day felt his eyes on them constantly. It was like being watched by a predator. After the session, Relix approached. You are wasting everyone's time, human. Perhaps, Day said. But your mother asked for this. My mother is old. She has lived 80,000 years. She has begun to fantasize about endings because she cannot imagine new beginnings. You're feeding her delusion. Or maybe she sees something we don't. Rolex leaned down. His face was inches from daze. Let me be clear. If you somehow convince the Velith to embrace mortality, you will destroy the greatest civilization in galactic history. I will not allow that. I will stop you, whatever it takes. He left. Jin appeared at Day's side. He means it. Watch your back. That night, there was an accident. The hallway outside Day's quarters collapsed. If he had been in it, he would have died. Jin examined the damage. Not an accident, he said. Someone weakened the structure? The prince? Can't prove it. But yes, and more accidents followed. Equipment failed. Food supplies were contaminated. Nothing deadly, but all sending a message. You are not welcome here. Despite this, some Velith began to change. Visana was the first. She came today privately. I watched your artist destroy his creation, she said. I have been thinking about it constantly. I created a scientific theory 400 years ago. It was brilliant. I have been refining it ever since, making it perfect. But I realized something. It is no longer mine. It has become an obsession. I can never finish it because there is always more time. What will you do? Day asked. I will publish it. Whatever state it is in, I will let it go. She looked strange, almost frightened. It terrifies me, but it also feels right. The breakthrough came during week 8. The Empress called Day to a private audience. They sat in a garden, a rare open space in the hive. The plants here were from 1,000 worlds. I want to try something, the Empress said. I want to experience mortality myself. How? We can create a temporary body, a construct that will age and die within 1 year. I will transfer my consciousness into it. For that year, I will be mortal. I will age. I will feel time passing. If I die before the year ends, my consciousness will be lost forever. Day felt his stomach twist. That's incredibly dangerous. Yes, that is the point. The Empress's voices were quiet. I need to understand what your people feel. Reading about it is not enough. I must experience it. And if Prince Relix tries to kill you during that year, then I die. Truly die. And perhaps that is what I need to risk to understand what mortality really means. Day thought about it. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was terrifying. What do you need from us? He asked. Help me design the body. Help me understand what I will experience. And help me live that year as a human would live it, not as an empress observing mortality. As someone truly facing their end? Sujin, Taemin, and Nari agreed to help. Over the next month, they worked with Vela scientists. They designed a body that would function like a mortal's. It would age 1 month for every 15 days. It would feel pain, exhaustion, hunger. It would die in exactly 1 year. Hannah arrived from the station to help with the technical details. She embraced Day when she saw him. You look terrible, she said. I feel terrible. We're trying to teach immortals to die. It's not going well? Then it's a good thing I'm here. Someone needs to keep you alive. The transfer day arrived. The Empress stood in a medical chamber. Her massive body would be placed in stasis. Her consciousness would be moved to the smaller temporary form waiting nearby. Are you certain? Vasana asked. Yes, the Empress said. I have lived 80,000 years without truly living. It is time to try something different. The transfer began. It took hours. When it ended, the Empress's massive body lay still, barely breathing. And in the smaller form, eyes opened, the Empress sat up in a body that was only 6 feet tall. She looked at her hands. They were small, fragile. I can feel my heart beating, she whispered. I can feel it. She looked at Day. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. Help me, she said. Teach me how to live like this. Teach me how to make 1 year matter more than 80,000. Day nodded. We will. But outside the chamber, Prince Relix watched. And he was planning. The first thing the Empress learned was pain. In her mortal body, She felt everything. When she bumped her arm, it hurt. When she stood too long, her feet ached. When she ate too fast, her stomach complained. For someone who had lived 80,000 years without physical discomfort, it was overwhelming. "Make it stop," she gasped after burning her hand on a hot cup. "We can't," Sujin said gently. "This is what mortality feels like. Your body is teaching you to be careful. I hate it." "Most humans do," Day said. "But we learn to live with it. Pain reminds us we're alive." The Empress looked at the small burn on her hand. "Alive," she repeated. "Yes, I suppose it does." The second thing she learned was exhaustion. After 8 hours of being awake, her body demanded rest. She fought it at first, used to working for days without stopping. But her eyes grew heavy. Her thoughts became foggy. "I need to sleep," she said, confused. "Why do I need to sleep?" "Because you're mortal now," Hannah said. "Your body needs rest. That's how it heals and processes everything." The Empress slept for the first time in 80,000 years. When she woke, she looked amazed. "I dreamed," she whispered. I forgot what dreams felt like. Days became weeks. The Empress, who now asked to be called simply Shiara in her mortal form, learned to be human. She learned to eat when hungry, rest when tired, and move carefully to avoid pain. She learned that mortal bodies were fragile and demanding and strangely wonderful, but she also learned about time. "I have only 11 months left," she said to Day one morning. 11 months. It sounds like enough time, but it isn't. There's so much I want to do. "Welcome to the human condition," Day said. Shiara began creating art. She painted pictures of the hive, trying to capture its beauty. Her early attempts were clumsy. Her mortal hands did not have the precision of her Velith form, but she kept trying. "It doesn't have to be perfect," Tamin told her. "It just has to be yours." She wrote poetry. She composed music on a human piano that Hannah had brought. She was not skilled, but she was passionate. For the first time in millennia, she was making something new. "I understand now," she told Sujin one evening. "When you have forever, nothing is urgent. But when you have months..." She looked at her hands, which were beginning to show signs of aging. "Every moment becomes precious." 6 months into her mortality, Shiara changed in other ways too. She laughed. Real laughter, not the formal acknowledgement of humor she had shown before. She cried, overwhelmed by a sunset she watched with Taemin. She formed friendships. She and Hannah spent hours talking about engineering and philosophy. They debated the nature of consciousness. They argued about the best way to design a stable power system. They teased each other. "You're my friend," Shiara said one day, sounding surprised. "Of course I am," Hannah said. "I have never had a friend before. Only subjects. Only equals in rank." Shiara looked sad. "I have lived 80,000 years and never known friendship." "Well, you know it now," Hannah said. Better late than never. But not everyone was happy about the Empress's transformation. Prince Relix watched from a distance, growing angrier each day. His mother, the great Empress, was becoming weak. She was embracing mortality like a disease. He could not allow it. He began planning carefully. He could not simply kill her mortal body. The Velith would never forgive him. But if humans were hurt or killed, if the experiments became dangerous, then perhaps the whole project would end. It started small. Equipment malfunctions. Data corruption. Accidents that were almost believable. But Jin and Nari noticed the pattern. "Someone is sabotaging us," Jin told Day. "The prince?" "Who else?" "He wants this to fail." They increased security, but it was not enough. Prince Relix was patient and clever. He waited for the perfect moment. It came during the 8th month. Shiara's mortal body was showing clear signs of aging now. Her hair had gray in it. Her movements were slower. She felt the weight of time pressing on her. She was working in a laboratory with Hana, examining tissue samples. They were laughing about something Taemin had said earlier. They did not notice the door sealing behind them. They did not notice the air circulation stopping, but they noticed when the oxygen started running out. "Something's wrong," Hannah said. She checked the controls. The system is locked. I can't override it. Shiara tried the door. It would not open. We're trapped. Hannah worked frantically on the panel. I can bypass it, but it will take time. How much time? 20 minutes. Maybe more. Hannah's face was pale. We don't have that much air. They tried to stay calm. They breathed slowly, but the air grew thin. Shiara felt dizzy. Her mortal body was weak. It needed oxygen. I'm sorry, Shiara said. This is my fault. My son is trying to stop this experiment. Not your fault, Hannah said. She was still working, her fingers flying over the controls. I just need a few more minutes. But Shiara collapsed first. Her mortal body could not handle the oxygen deprivation. She lay on the floor, gasping. Hannah finally got the door open. She dragged Shiara into the hallway, screaming for help. Medical teams arrived. They saved Shiara barely, but the damage was done. Exposure to low oxygen had harmed her mortal body. She had lost time. Her 1 year was now 10 months. Her body was aging faster. I'm dying, she said when she woke. I can feel it. This body is failing. Day sat with her. Yes, but you're still here. For how long? Long enough to finish what you started. Prince Ralix was arrested, but they could not prove his involvement. He was released, smug and unrepentant. 2 weeks later, there was another attack. This time they were ready. Jin and Nari had set a trap. They caught the assassin, a Velith loyal to the prince. Under questioning, he confessed Prince Ralix was exiled from the throne world, but the damage to Shiara's mortal body could not be undone. She was dying, and they all knew it. In her final weeks, Shiara lived intensely. She spent every day creating, talking, experiencing. She watched every sunrise. She listened to music until she cried. She wrote letters to her people, trying to explain what she had learned. Mortality is not a curse, she wrote. It is a gift. It makes every moment precious. It gives meaning to choice. It makes love possible because love requires the risk of loss. One evening, she sat with the human team in her garden. Her mortal body was thin and weak. She moved carefully, every action measured. Thank you, she said. You gave me something I had lost. You gave me life. Hannah held her hand. You gave us something too. You showed us that even the mighty can change. That night, Shiara's health declined rapidly. Her mortal body was shutting down. The team gathered around her. Velith physicians could save her by transferring her consciousness back to her original body, but she refused. No, she said. I chose this. I will see it through. She died just before dawn, surrounded by friends. Her last words were, "Thank you for teaching me how to live." The throne world mourned. But it was not the formal, ritualistic mourning the Velith normally displayed. It was real grief. Raw and painful and achingly human, the Empress had died. And in dying, she had taught her people something they had forgotten, that life only matters because it ends. The funeral was unlike anything the Velith had ever held. For 100,000 years, they had not needed funerals. Death was merely a transition, a consciousness moving from one body to another. But Shiara had chosen true death. Her consciousness was gone. She would not return. Billions of Velith gathered in person and through communication networks. They came to honor their Empress and to witness something their species had not seen in millennia, an ending. Day stood with his team near the front. He felt numb. He had known Shiara for less than a year, but her death hurt like losing family. Beside him, Hannah wept openly. Taemin stared at his hands. Sujin looked tired and sad. High Scholar Vasana spoke first. She was old and wise, and her voices trembled as she talked. Empress Shiara lived 80,000 years, she said. She ruled wisely. She expanded our empire. She made discoveries that changed our understanding of the universe. But in all those millennia, she never truly lived until her final year. The crowd was silent, listening. In her last year, she experienced what we have forgotten: pain, joy, fear, love, She created art knowing it would outlive her mortal form. She made friends knowing she would leave them. She felt time pressing on her, and instead of fighting it, she embraced it. She lived fiercely, desperately, beautifully, and when death came, she did not run from it. She welcomed it as the completion of a life fully lived. Vasana gestured to Day. Come forward, human. Speak for your people. Day walked to the center of the gathering. He had prepared words, but they fled from his mind. He looked at the assembled Velith, ancient and powerful, waiting to hear what a human had to say about death. I didn't know the Empress long, he began, but I watched her transform. She went from being someone who had everything to being someone who had only moments. And those moments made her more alive than centuries of immortality ever did. He thought about their conversations, her wonder at simple things, her fear and her courage. Humans die. All of us. Every single one. We're born knowing we have maybe 100 years if we're lucky. Most of us get less. And that knowledge shapes everything we do. We love harder because we know we'll lose each other. We create urgently because time is running out. We fight for causes because we won't be here forever to see them through. We make our moments matter because they're all we have. He looked at where Shiara's mortal body lay, covered in flowers from Earth. The Empress understood that. She chose to die so she could finally learn to live. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen. The ceremony continued. Other Velith spoke. Some argued that Shiara had wasted herself, thrown away millennia of potential life for 1 year of mortal experience. Others spoke of how her choice had moved them, made them question what they had lost in their pursuit of immortality. After the ceremony, Prince Ralix appeared. He had been allowed to return for the funeral, but was guarded constantly. He approached Day. My mother died because of you, he said. His voices were cold with rage. Your mother chose her own path, Day replied. She was manipulated, convinced that weakness was strength. Ralix leaned close. This is not over, human. The Grand Council will vote on whether to offer mortality to the Velith people. I will fight that decision with everything I have. And when I win, I will make sure you regret ever coming to our world. He left. Jin stepped closer to Day. We should go home. We've done what we came for. Not yet, Day said. Not until after the vote. The Grand Council of the Velith met in the throne chamber 1 week later. Thousands of representatives gathered, along with millions more watching remotely. The question before them was simple but profound. Should mortality be offered as a choice to the Velith people? Those who would choose it would truly die when their time came. No consciousness transfer? No new bodies. Just ending, final, and absolute. Prince Ralix spoke first. He was powerful and persuasive. We have built the greatest civilization in the galaxy because we do not die. Our knowledge accumulates across millennia. Our leaders rule with wisdom earned through ages. If we embrace mortality, we throw away everything that makes us strong. He gestured to Day and his team. These humans have lived for less than a century combined. They know nothing of what it means to be truly advanced. They convince us that weakness is beautiful, that limitation is strength. But it is a lie. Mortality is not a gift. It is a curse we evolve beyond. If we choose it again, we choose to become lesser. Many Velith agreed. They nodded and voiced support. Day's heart sank. Perhaps they had failed after all. But then Vasana stood. She had lived 3,000 years. She had seen empires rise and fall. Her voice carried authority. Prince Ralix speaks of strength, she said. But what strength have we shown in the last 50,000 years? What have we created? What have we discovered? Our last great artwork is 30 millennia old. Our last revolutionary idea is 20 millennia old. We have not grown. We have not changed. We have simply ... continued. She showed images on massive screens. Human art, music, literature, all created by people who knew they would die. Look at what these mortals have made in their brief spans. They have been spacefaring for less than 50 years, yet they create more in a generation than we create in a millennium. Why? Because they are desperate. Because they know their time is limited. Because every moment is precious to them. She turned to face the assembly. I am 3,000 years old. I have published 47 scientific papers. All refinements of earlier work, safe, cautious, incremental. Human scientist lives 80 years and publishes more groundbreaking work than I have in 3,000. Why? Because they are running out of time. Because they must make their mark before death comes. More Velith began to nod. The mood was shifting. I am choosing mortality, Vasana announced. I will die, truly die, within the next century. And in that century, I will create more than I have in 3 millennia of immortality. Because it will matter. Because it will end. Because I will finally be alive again. Other voices joined hers. Velith artists who had not created in centuries. Scientists who had lost their curiosity. Teachers who had forgotten why they taught. One by one they spoke of choosing mortality. But Prince Ralix was not finished. And what of our empire? If our leaders die, if our soldiers die, if our scientists die, we will become weak. Other species will surpass us. We will lose everything we have built. Then we will rebuild, a voice said. It was Shiara, but not the mortal Shiara who had died. A recording made before her death. Her image appeared on the screens, speaking with her mortal voice. My son fears loss, the recorded Shiara said. And he is right too. If we choose mortality, we will lose much. We will lose our certainty, our permanence, our guaranteed future, but we will gain something far more valuable. We will gain life. She smiled, the expression strange on a face that was both Velith and human. For 80,000 years I ruled without truly living. I made decisions without risk. I loved without the possibility of loss. I created without the urgency of ending. And I was hollow, empty, a consciousness going through motions that had lost all meaning. In my final year I felt everything. Pain that taught me to be careful. Fear that taught me to be brave. Exhaustion that taught me to rest. And love, oh the love. I loved my human friends knowing I would leave them. And that knowledge made every moment we shared precious beyond measure. The recording showed Shiara in her final days, thin and weak but intensely alive. I have one message for my people. Life without death is not life. It is merely existence. If you want to truly live, you must also accept death. That is the great truth these humans have taught me. That is my final gift to you all. The courage to end so you can finally begin. The image faded. The chamber was silent. The vote came. Representatives cast their decisions. It took hours. The numbers climbed on massive displays. Yes, no, the chamber held its breath. When the final count appeared, the margin was narrow. But it was enough. Mortality would be offered as a choice to all Velith. The chamber erupted. Some cheered. Others protested. Arguments broke out across the vast space. But the decision was made. Day felt hands on his shoulders. Hannah hugged him. Sujin smiled through tears. Taemin laughed in disbelief. They had done it. Against all odds, they had taught an immortal species to value death. Prince Ralix left the chamber without a word. He looked diminished, defeated, but they knew he would not give up. There would be resistance. There would be challenges. But the first step had been taken. In the months that followed, 30% of Velith chose mortality. They underwent the process, accepting true death when their time came. The change was immediate and profound. Velith art flourished. New music, new poetry, new ideas flowed like rivers after a long drought. Universities reopened departments that had been closed for millennia. Young Velith studied with urgency, knowing they had only centuries instead of forever. Relationships deepened. Velith fell in love with passion they had forgotten. They married and knew the joy of growing old together. They had children and understood the bittersweet beauty of watching them grow. 10 years later, Day stood in a cemetery. It was the first cemetery on the Vela throne world in 100,000 years. Markers stretched in neat rows, each one commemorating a life that had ended. He stopped at two graves.